There's a moment in every person's journey when everything suddenly becomes clear. The patterns you couldn't name before snap into focus. The masks people wear become transparent. The games everyone plays reveal their rules. The comfortable lies that hold society together stop working on you. You finally see. And you think to yourself, this is it. This is freedom. This is what I've been searching for. Now that I can see the truth, everything will be different. Better, easier. But then something strange happens. Something you never expected. The people closest to you start pulling away. Not dramatically. Not with confrontation. They just become distant. Conversations that used to flow naturally now feel forced, careful. You notice they stop confiding in you. They stop asking for your perspective. When you share what you've discovered about yourself or the world, you're met with uncomfortable silence or subtle dismissal. You thought clarity would bring connection. Instead, it brought distance. Have you noticed how lonely it gets when you finally understand how the awakened are surrounded by people yet feel profoundly, deeply alone? Like you're speaking a language no one else can hear. Like you've returned from a journey no one else believes you took. This is not your imagination. This is not paranoia. This is the hidden cost of awakening that no one talks about. For over 40 years, one of the greatest minds in psychology documented exactly what happens to people who undergo what he called individuation and the process of becoming psychologically whole. He watched hundreds of people wake up to their true nature. He tracked their transformations. He recorded their struggles. And he discovered a pattern so consistent, so undeniable, that it haunted him for the rest of his life. Those who woke up and spoke freely about their awakening suffered devastating consequences. Not occasionally, not randomly, consistently. They lost relationships. They were ostracized from families. They were pushed out of social circles. They faced suspicion, hostility, and isolation. Some lost their careers, others lost their reputations. Many lost nearly everything they had built before their awakening. And here's what troubled him most. These weren't bad people. They weren't cruel or delusional or unstable. In fact, they were often the most psychologically healthy, the most emotionally mature, the most genuinely compassionate individuals he encountered. So why were they being punished? Because they violated unconscious agreements that most people don't even know exist. Agreements that hold families together. Agreements that stabilize social groups. Agreements that allow people to avoid confronting painful truths about themselves and the world they live in. When you wake up, you threaten these agreements simply by existing. And when you speak about what you see, you force others to either face what they've been avoiding or destroy you to protect their illusions. Most choose the latter. Not consciously, not maliciously, but unconsciously, automatically, as a form of psychological self-defense. What he discovered were 5 specific secrets, 5 aspects of awakening that must remain hidden if you want to protect your transformation and maintain your ability to function in a world that is not yet ready for the level of consciousness you embody. These are not spiritual platitudes. These are not rules about being mysterious for the sake of mystique. These are psychological survival strategies based on decades of research into how the unconscious mind operates in groups, in families, in entire societies. The 5 secrets are these: your absolute certainty about what you perceive, your hidden map of transformation, your boundary for betrayal, your sacred wound, and your uncanny perfection. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why silence is not weakness, why discretion is not dishonesty, and why protecting these 5 secrets is the highest form of psychological sovereignty an awakened person can practice. Before we dive deeper, if this resonates with your soul's journey, please hit that like button and subscribe for more transformational content. Your support helps this message reach other souls who need to hear it. After you've done the deep work of shadow integration, something fundamental shifts in how you perceive reality. You stop second-guessing your intuition. You stop asking others to validate what you already know. You stop doubting the quiet voice inside you that has been right all along. You just know, not with arrogance, not with ego, but with a calm, unshakable certainty that comes from having faced your darkest parts and survived. From having questioned everything about yourself and arrived at truth through fire. This is what happens when your unconscious mind has been brought into the light. It stops sending you confusing signals. It stops creating internal conflict. Instead, it becomes an ally processing information at speeds your conscious mind could never match. You walk into a room and immediately sense the emotional undercurrents. You meet someone and know within minutes whether they're trustworthy. You hear a story and feel instantly whether it's true or whether something essential is being hidden. This is differentiated perception. Your nervous system has been calibrated by pain, by growth, by countless hours of honest self-examination. You've earned the right to trust yourself. And that trust is unshakable because it's built on a foundation of brutal self-honesty. But here's what you'll discover quickly. This certainty, this gift that came at such a high cost, becomes one of your greatest vulnerabilities the moment you express it to others. When you say with confidence that you sense something is wrong, that you see through a facade, that you recognize a pattern, others are missing something inside. The people around you reacts with immediate hostility, not always openly. Sometimes it's subtle. A slight withdrawal, a dismissive comment, a change in energy. But the message is always the same. You've gone too far. You think you know everything. Who made you the authority? What's actually happening is far more complex and far more unconscious than simple disagreement. When you express confidence in what you see, other people experience it as an attack on their reality. Because most people are not certain. Most people doubt themselves constantly. Most people are terrified they're wrong about everything. And when someone in their presence expresses genuine certainty, it holds up a mirror to their own internal chaos. Your certainty becomes a reflection of their doubt. And doubt, when seen clearly, is unbearable. So the unconscious mind does what it always does when confronted with unbearable truth. It projects outward. It transforms the internal feeling into an external enemy. Suddenly, you're not someone who trusts their perception. You're arrogant, judgmental, superior, delusional. The accusations always sound eerily similar. You think you know everything. You're so sure of yourself. You judge everyone. Who do you think you are? But these are not observations. These are projections. Because the awakened person is not claiming to know everything. They're simply trusting what they do know. And that trust, that quiet confidence, is unbearable to people who have not integrated their shadow. People who haven't done their inner work cannot tolerate someone who has. Your presence reminds them of everything they're avoiding. Your certainty highlights their confusion. Your clarity exposes their denial. And so unconsciously, they activate what exists in the collective psyche as the righteous judge archetype. They position themselves as the moral authority who must bring you down, must humble you, must remind you that you're just as lost and confused as everyone else. Except you're not. And they know it. And that knowing is what drives the rage. There's another layer to this dynamic that's even more insidious. Most social systems, whether families, workplaces, or friend groups, operate on an unconscious agreement. An agreement so fundamental that it's never spoken aloud. The agreement is this: we all pretend we don't see what we see. We all maintain comfortable illusions together. We agree not to call out the obvious lies. We agree not to name the family secret. We agree not to acknowledge the power dynamics. We agree to let people hide behind their masks without pulling them off. This agreement allows people to feel safe. It allows dysfunction to continue without confrontation. It allows everyone to avoid the painful work of facing truth. When you express certainty about what you perceive, you break this agreement. And breaking unconscious agreements always brings punishment. The punishment might be subtle, being left out of conversations, having your opinions ignored, being labeled as negative or difficult. Or it might be overt. Character assassination, public humiliation, complete ostracism from the group. The form doesn't matter. The function is the same. You must be taught that seeing clearly is not acceptable, that naming truth is not allowed, that certainty is a threat to collective comfort. After decades of observing this pattern, the conclusion became inescapable. Awakened individuals who openly expressed confidence in their perceptions became targets not because they were wrong, but because they were certain. And certainty disrupts the fragile equilibrium that keeps unconscious people comfortable in their illusions. So what's the solution? The solution is not to become uncertain again. You cannot unsee what you've seen. You cannot unknow what you know. And you shouldn't try. The solution is strategic silence. Containment, not suppression. See everything. Trust what you see. Know what you know with absolute confidence. But do not announce your vision to people who are still sleeping. Do not explain your certainty to those who are invested in doubt. Do not break the unconscious agreement with people who need that agreement to function. Your certainty is your power. It guides your decisions. It protects you from manipulation. It allows you to move through the world with clarity and purpose. But that power only remains powerful when you protect it from those who would destroy it to preserve their own illusions. The awakened observer learns to see everything and say nothing, to know with complete confidence and reveal selectively, to be certain internally while appearing uncertain externally when necessary. This is not dishonesty. This is wisdom. Because wisdom knows that truth offered to those who are not ready becomes a weapon they will use against you. When you begin the journey of awakening, something becomes immediately clear. You're not changing randomly. You're not stumbling through personal growth, hoping something will work. You're changing systematically, strategically, with increasing precision. This is individuation, the process of becoming psychologically whole. And it follows a map that only you can see. You start identifying the wounds that shaped you, the childhood experiences that created your defense mechanisms, the moments of pain that formed your core beliefs about yourself and the world. You name them. You examine them. You understand how they've controlled your choices for decades. Then you begin the shadow work. You face the parts of yourself you've denied, repressed, hidden even from your own awareness. The rage you've suppressed, the selfishness you've condemned, the desires you've labeled as wrong. You bring them into the light. You integrate them. You reclaim the energy you've spent keeping them buried. You develop your underdeveloped functions. If you've lived in your head, you learn to feel. If you've lived in your heart, you learn to think. You balance yourself. You become more complete, more capable, more whole. And through all of this, you know exactly where you are on the journey. You know where you came from. You understand the work you've done. You see clearly where you're going next. You have a map of your own psychological territory that most people never develop. Most people change reactively, responding to external pressure without understanding the internal patterns driving their behavior. But you've done something different. You've charted your inner world with the precision of a cartographer. This map is precious. It's the result of years of painful, honest work. It represents your freedom from unconscious patterns. It's your guide to continued growth. And revealing it to others is one of the most dangerous things you can do. Here's why. When people see that you have a plan for your own transformation, they realize something that terrifies them. They can no longer control you. Think about how most relationships work. There are unspoken agreements about who plays what role. In families, it's especially clear. Someone is the victim who needs rescuing. Someone is the rescuer who derives worth from being needed. Someone is the scapegoat who carries the family's shadow. Someone is the golden child who maintains the illusion that everything is fine. These roles are not random. They're not conscious. They're unconscious agreements that keep the family system stable even when that stability is built on dysfunction. When you wake up and start integrating your shadow, something shifts. You stop playing your assigned role. You see the game clearly and you refuse to participate. The victim who always needed saving suddenly becomes capable and boundaried. The rescuer who always fixed everyone's problems suddenly focuses on their own life. The scapegoat who absorbed everyone's blame suddenly reflects it back with clarity. This terrifies the family system, because your transformation threatens everyone's unconscious agreements. If you're no longer playing your role, the entire system becomes unstable. Others have to face their own dysfunction. They have to take responsibility for their own healing. They have to look at why they needed you to stay small. And they don't want to do that. So they unconsciously try to pull you back into the old pattern. If you've revealed your map of transformation, if you've shared the specifics of your healing journey, you've given them a blueprint for sabotage. They know exactly where you're growing. They know exactly which old patterns you're trying to break. They know exactly when you're most vulnerable. And they will use that knowledge, not with malicious intent, but with unconscious precision, to pull you back. The observation repeated across hundreds of cases was undeniable. Awakened individuals would share their healing process with family members or close friends. They would explain their insights, describe their breakthroughs, articulate their plans for continued growth. And then, at exactly the moments when they were breaking free from old patterns, those same people would create crises that demanded the old response. The mother who was told her daughter was working on boundaries would suddenly have emergencies that required boundary violations. The friend who heard about your journey away from people-pleasing would suddenly need you to sacrifice your needs for theirs. The timing was never coincidental. The unconscious mind is strategic. It knows exactly when and how to interfere with transformation that threatens its control. So the awakened person learns a different approach. Strategic silence. Transformation in private. Do your inner work. Build your map. Chart your territory. Know exactly where you're going and why. But keep that plan completely private. Let others see the results of your transformation, not the process. When you're no longer playing your old role, let them wonder why. When you're suddenly boundaried, let them adjust without explanation. When you've healed your wounds, show them your strength without detailing the surgery that created it. This isn't about being secretive for the sake of mystery. This is about protecting your growth from unconscious interference. This is about refusing to hand your enemies, and sometimes our loved ones are our unconscious enemies, a map of your vulnerabilities. Remember the pattern observed in awakened empaths. The ones who became psychologically invincible were the ones who collected data in silence. They saw everything. They understood every manipulation. They tracked every pattern, but they revealed nothing until the moment of decisive action. They built their war room in private. And when they finally moved, it was swift, complete, and impossible to counter, because no one saw it coming. Your transformation deserves the same protection. Carl Jung empath and personal development experts understand that growth is sacred. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't require validation. It simply needs space to unfold without interference. Transform systematically, heal strategically, grow deliberately. But do it all in sacred silence until your new self is so solid, so integrated, so complete that no one can pull you back into who you used to be. There's a profound difference between who you were before awakening and who you becomes after. Nowhere is this difference more clear than in how you respond to betrayal. Before awakening, you tolerated behavior that hurt you. You made excuses for people who disappointed you. You blamed yourself when others crossed your boundaries. You gave second chances, third chances, infinite chances to people who showed you repeatedly who they really were. You did this because you believed you were supposed to. Because forgiveness meant tolerating harm. Because compassion meant sacrificing yourself. Because being a good person meant allowing bad behavior. But after shadow integration, something fundamental changes. You develop what can only be described as selective empathy. You still care deeply. Your compassion doesn't disappear. In fact, it often becomes stronger, more refined, more genuine. But you no longer sacrifice yourself for people who have demonstrated through their actions that they will hurt you. This is not cruelty. This is not coldness. This is clarity. You know exactly what behaviors you will and will not accept. You know exactly what patterns constitute betrayal. And you know exactly what you will do when someone crosses those lines. This is psychological maturity. This is self-respect. This is the natural result of valuing yourself enough to protect your peace. But revealing this boundary to others, especially to those who might test it, is extraordinarily dangerous. Here's what happens when you announce your limits. When you say to someone, "If you do this again, I will walk away. If you betray me one more time, there will be permanent consequences. If you cross this line, we are done." You think you're being clear. You think you're being fair. You think you're giving them the information they need to change their behavior. But what you're actually doing is handing them your battle plan. Manipulative people, and this includes people who manipulate unconsciously without malicious intent, are strategic. When they know your exact limits, they use that information in several ways. First, they test right up to the edge. They push as far as they can without quite crossing the line you've drawn. They take everything they can take from you while staying just inside the boundary. This maximizes their access to whatever they're getting from you. Attention resources, emotional labor, while minimizing their risk. Second, they prepare their defense in advance. If they know you're close to walking away, they start building the narrative that will make you look like the unreasonable one. They recruit others to their side. They reframe the situation so that when you finally enforce your boundary, you appear cruel, vindictive, unforgiving. Third, and most insidiously, they provoke you into enforcing your boundary prematurely. They engineer situations designed to make you react before you're fully ready, before you've completely processed your decision, before you've built the internal strength to withstand the consequences. Then when you enforce your boundary in anger, in pain, in reactivity, they use your emotional state as evidence that you're the unstable one, that you're overreacting, that you're the problem. The pattern appeared again and again in clinical observation. Awakened empaths who announced their boundaries in advance found themselves trapped in exactly this dynamic. They became targets of calculated manipulation designed to either keep them just barely satisfied enough to stay, or provoke them into leaving in ways that damaged their reputation. But something different happened with empaths who learned to enforce boundaries without warning. They would watch. They would observe. They would collect data on patterns of behavior. They would come to clear conclusions about what was acceptable and what wasn't. They would make their decision internally. They would prepare themselves emotionally and practically for the consequences. And then when the person crossed their invisible line, the response was immediate, decisive, and final. No warning, no negotiation, no explanation, no drama. The manipulator would cross the boundary, expecting the old pattern, the conversation, the guilt, the eventual forgiveness, the continuation of the relationship on their terms. Instead, they would encounter something they couldn't comprehend: complete removal, immediate consequence, total finality. And because the awakened person never announced their boundary in advance, the manipulator had no opportunity to prepare, to justify, to recruit allies, to build a defense. They were simply left confused about what happened. And that confusion, that inability to manipulate the narrative, was itself a form of justice. This is what it means when we say that true compassion protects itself. Real compassion doesn't announce its limits to those who would exploit them. Real compassion doesn't give advance warning to those who have already demonstrated they won't respect boundaries. Real compassion makes quiet decisions and enforces them with calm finality. The weaponization of compassion is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming wise. It's about understanding that some people will use your kindness against you, that some people interpret your patience as weakness, that some people will take everything you give and then blame you for not giving more. And wisdom knows that these people don't deserve roadmaps to your boundaries. They deserve only the consequences of crossing them. So keep your boundary for betrayal completely private. Know exactly what you will and will not accept. Know exactly what behaviors constitute a final violation. Know exactly what you will do when that line is crossed. But never ever reveal that knowledge to anyone who might test it. The mature boundary is silent, immovable, and enforced without apology. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't negotiate. It simply exists. And when violated, it activates with the mechanical precision of a perfectly designed system. This is not manipulation. This is self-protection. This is the natural right of any person who values their peace more than they fear being alone. And when you exercise this right without warning, without explanation, without visible anger, you give the other person something valuable even if they never realize it. You give them the opportunity to reflect on their behavior, without your presence to blame, to manipulate, to use as a distraction from their own accountability. You free yourself, and paradoxically, you free them too. Free them. Every person who awakens spiritually has been through trauma. This is not a coincidence. This is not unfortunate. This is the way consciousness develops in human beings. Pain cracks us open. Trauma forces us to question everything we believed. Betrayal teaches us to see beneath surfaces. Loss initiates us into deeper truths about existence. Before integration, before the shadow work, people are trapped in what was identified as the compulsion to repeat. They unconsciously recreate their original wounds with different people in different situations over and over again. The woman whose father abandoned her keeps choosing men who leave. The man whose mother was critical keeps seeking validation from people who withhold it. The child who was scapegoated keeps finding groups that cast them in the same role. They don't understand why this keeps happening. They think they're unlucky. They think they're cursed. They think they're broken in some fundamental way. But they're not broken. They're unconscious. Their psyche is trying desperately to bring the original wound into awareness by recreating it until they finally see the pattern. And then, if they do the work, if they integrate their shadow, if they process the pain and examine the pattern, something miraculous happens. The wound transforms. It stops controlling them. It stops dictating their choices. It stops defining their identity. Instead, it becomes the source of their power. They understand with profound clarity a pattern that once owned them completely. They've processed pain that would have destroyed them if left unexamined. They've emerged with wisdom that can heal others walking similar paths. This is the hero's journey, the descent into darkness and the return with medicine for the tribe. This is beautiful. This is sacred. This is the alchemy of suffering transformed into service. But revealing your fully processed wound to others is dangerous in ways most awakened people don't anticipate. When you tell someone about your trauma after you've healed it, something strange often happens. They start treating you like you're still wounded. They refer to your past pain as if it still defines you. They offer pity when you need respect. They lower their expectations of you because they see you as damaged. This happens because of something powerful in the collective unconscious. The eternal victim is an archetypal energy that people recognize instantly. When they hear about trauma, they unconsciously slot you into that archetype. And once you're in that slot, it's almost impossible to get out in their perception. Even though you've done the work, even though you've healed, even though you're using your wound as medicine, even though you're stronger now because of what you survived, they can't see any of that. They can only see the wound, and they treat you accordingly. This is not malicious. This is unconscious. People who have not integrated their own wounds cannot tolerate being around someone who has transformed their suffering into strength. Your healing becomes a mirror that reflects their choice to stay stuck. If you can heal from trauma, why can't they? If you can transform your pain, what's their excuse for staying in victimhood? If you can use your wound as medicine, why are they still using theirs as an identity? These questions are unbearable. So instead of facing them, people unconsciously try to pull you back into the victim role. They need you to stay wounded so they can justify their own refusal to heal. There's another danger in revealing your sacred wound. Something observed but difficult to explain through purely rational psychology. Revealing your wound seems to attract negative synchronicity. New people enter your life unconsciously playing the exact roles that created your original trauma. It's as if the universe tests whether you've truly integrated the lesson by sending you the same pattern in a new form. The woman who healed from narcissistic abuse and spoke openly about it suddenly attracts another narcissist, different face, same pattern. The man who integrated his abandonment wound and shared his story publicly finds himself in a new relationship where abandonment becomes the central dynamic again. Carl Jung, empath, and personal development specialists recognize this pattern. The wound, when displayed, becomes a beacon. It calls to the unhealed parts of others. It invites reenactment. But when you keep your wound private, when you protect it as sacred, something different happens. You can still use your wisdom to help others. You can still offer medicine. But you do it from a place of strength, not from a place of shared suffering. You don't bond over wounds. You don't build connection through mutual trauma. You don't attract people by displaying your scars. Instead, you attract people through your wholeness, through your wisdom, through your strength. And when you offer medicine, you offer it strategically to those who are ready to receive it, not broadcast to everyone who asks about your scars. The awakened person knows their wound intimately. They've examined it from every angle. They understand its origins, its patterns, its lessons. They've integrated it so completely that it no longer has power over them. But they don't display it. They don't perform it. They don't use it as currency in relationships or as explanation for their identity. Their wound has become medicine. And medicine, real medicine, is given carefully, strategically, to those prepared to use it for healing, not shared indiscriminately with those who will weaponize it or use it to keep you trapped in an identity you've outgrown. Your sacred wound is yours. It's private. It's holy. It doesn't need to be shared to be valuable. It doesn't need to be displayed to serve others. It simply needs to be integrated so completely that you can move through the world free from its unconscious control. Protect it. Honor it. Use the wisdom it gave you. But keep its specifics sacred, shared only with those rare souls who have earned the right, through their own integration, to hold your story without diminishing your transformation. When you've done deep shadow work, when you've integrated your unconscious material, When you've developed your inferior functions and balanced your psyche, something unexpected happens. You become extraordinarily skilled at navigating social reality. You develop what's called the conscious persona. You understand that the mask you wear in society is just that, a mask. But unlike people who are possessed by their personas, who believe their social mask is their true self, you use yours as a tool. You know how to read a room. You understand group dynamics instinctively. You can sense what needs to be said, how it needs to be delivered, when to speak and when to remain silent. You adapt your behavior to different contexts without losing your core authenticity. You're not being fake. You're being flexible. You're not manipulating. You're translating yourself into a language others can understand. This is psychological sophistication. This is emotional intelligence at its highest level. You can be yourself while making others comfortable. You can maintain your boundaries while keeping relationships functional. You can see through illusions while allowing others to keep theirs when necessary. In short, you become almost perfect at human interaction. And this perfection, this very capability that marks your development, becomes dangerous the moment others realize you possess it. Here's what happens when people recognize that you're consciously using your persona as a tool. When they understand that you're deliberately choosing how to present yourself based on context. When they realize you can read social dynamics with this level of clarity. They feel manipulated, even though you're not manipulating them. Even though you're just being socially intelligent. Even though everything you're doing serves connection, not exploitation. They feel manipulated because they need to believe that what they see is all of you. They need to believe that your social mask is your real face. They need to believe that you're just as unconscious as they are. When you reveal that you're far more complex than your persona suggests, when they understand that you're strategically choosing how to appear, it triggers anxiety. Deep, primal anxiety. If you can control how you appear, what else are you hiding? If you can read social dynamics this clearly, what have you seen about me? If you're this sophisticated, am I being studied, analyzed, judged? These questions feel threatening, and threatened people attack. The observation repeated across countless cases was this. Awakened individuals often developed social skills that bordered on uncanny. They could navigate complex interpersonal situations with ease. They rarely made social mistakes. They seemed to know exactly what to say, how to say it, when to say it. And this perfection itself became a problem. People started feeling uncomfortable around them. There was a sense of being in the presence of someone operating on a different level. And that sense, instead of creating admiration, often created suspicion and resentment. Because perfection reveals the observer's consciousness. And consciousness in an unconscious world is threatening. So what's the solution? Hiding your light. Not dimming it. Not destroying it. Not becoming less conscious. But strategically concealing the full extent of your capability. You maintain your ability to read people. You keep your skill at navigating social complexity. But you deliberately introduce small imperfections into your persona. You let people see you as slightly flawed, slightly awkward, slightly human. You might share a minor insecurity. You might make a small social mistake on purpose. You might reveal a harmless struggle. You might show uncertainty where you actually have clarity. This is not dishonesty. This is strategic humility. This is compassion for others who are not at your level of development. You're protecting them from their unconscious reaction to your consciousness. You're giving them permission to feel comfortable around you instead of threatened by you. You're allowing connection to happen by not overwhelming them with the full force of your capability. Think about martial artists. The true masters don't walk into rooms announcing their skill. They don't demonstrate their capability unless absolutely necessary. They move through the world appearing ordinary, unremarkable, safe. Not because they're ashamed of their skill, but because they understand that announcing power diminishes it. Because they know that unnecessary demonstration invites challenge. Because they're wise enough to reserve their capability for moments when it actually serves. The same principle applies to psychological development. Your consciousness is your martial art. Your awareness is your weapon. Your social sophistication is your skill. And all of it becomes more effective when kept partially hidden. There's another phenomenon worth understanding: the scapegoat pattern. In groups, families, organizations, there's often one person who becomes the repository for everyone's unintegrated shadow. They're blamed for problems they didn't create. They're criticized for qualities that exist in everyone. They're punished for speaking truths others are afraid to acknowledge. And who becomes the scapegoat? Often it's the most conscious person in the group, the one whose presence reveals the dysfunction everyone else wants to ignore, the one whose very existence is a mirror of what the collective refuses to see about itself. By hiding your perfection, by concealing the full extent of your development, you protect yourself from this dynamic. You avoid becoming the target for collective shadow projection. You remain functional within the group, without triggering the unconscious need to destroy the one who sees too clearly. This doesn't mean you're less authentic. Carl Jung, empath and personal development wisdom, teaches that authenticity is not about revealing everything to everyone. True authenticity is being fully yourself while skillfully navigating a world not yet ready for the level of consciousness you embody. You remain true to yourself internally. You maintain your awareness. You use your skills. But you do it with enough humility, enough concealment, enough strategic imperfection that others can relate to you without feeling threatened. This is the art of hiding your light, not extinguishing it, not being ashamed of it, but recognizing that light, when too bright, blinds those who aren't ready to see. And blinded people lash out at the source of their discomfort. So you dim your presentation while maintaining your illumination. You appear ordinary while being extraordinary. You seem flawed while being integrated. You let them think they understand you while keeping the full truth of your development private. This is not weakness. This is mastery. Because the true mark of development is not in displaying your capability, but in knowing when and how to use it without announcement, without ego, without need for recognition. By now, you might be wondering something. Doesn't keeping these 5 secrets make me inauthentic? Doesn't hiding my certainty, my transformation, my boundaries, my wound, my perfection mean I'm being dishonest? This question deserves a direct answer. The goal of psychological development is not to become an open book. The goal is not radical transparency with everyone at all times. The goal is not to reveal every aspect of your inner world to every person you encounter. The goal is to be psychologically complete while remaining socially functional. The goal is to be fully yourself while navigating a world where most people are not yet themselves. The goal is to embody consciousness while living among people who are still unconscious. And that requires discernment. That requires wisdom. That requires knowing what to share, when to share it, and with whom. Think about it this way. A surgeon doesn't walk around explaining surgical techniques to everyone they meet. That knowledge is valuable, but sharing it indiscriminately serves no one. It would confuse most people, bore others, and potentially harm those who might misuse the information. A martial artist doesn't announce their skill level to every person who approaches them. That capability is real, but broadcasting it invites unnecessary challenge, attracts the wrong kind of attention, and diminishes the element of surprise that makes the skill effective. Power that announces itself loses its effectiveness. Wisdom that displays itself becomes performance. Consciousness that constantly explains itself becomes exhausting for everyone involved. The 5 secrets protect your development, not through deception, but through discernment. Not through dishonesty, but through discretion. Not through suppression, but through strategic revelation. Here's what your growth reveals to others, even when you're not trying to reveal it. Your certainty mirrors back their doubt. Your transformation mirrors back their stagnation. Your boundaries mirror back their exploitation. Your healing mirrors back their choice to remain wounded. Your perfection mirrors back their chaos. You're not trying to make them uncomfortable. You're not trying to judge them. You're not trying to prove anything. You're simply existing at a different level of consciousness. And that existence itself is a mirror. Most people cannot handle what they see in that mirror. They cannot face what your presence reveals about their own choices. They cannot tolerate the discomfort of seeing someone living with clarity, purpose, boundaries, healing capability. So they attack, not always consciously, not always directly, but they attack nonetheless. They diminish your certainty. They sabotage your transformation. They test your boundaries. They remind you of your wounds. They resent your capability. And they do this to protect themselves from having to face their own potential, their own responsibility, their own freedom. You are not responsible for managing other people's unconscious reactions to your growth. You are not responsible for making your development comfortable for those who refuse to develop. You are not responsible for hiding your light so others don't have to see their darkness. But you are responsible for protecting your development from those who would unconsciously sabotage it. You are responsible for maintaining your peace in a world that profits from your chaos. You are responsible for your own consciousness, even when surrounded by unconsciousness. This is what it means when we say consciousness is not a destination, but a responsibility. When you wake up, you become responsible for protecting your awareness from forces that would try to destroy it. Not paranoid, not isolated, not defensive, but discerning, strategic wise. The pattern documented over decades was undeniable. When awakened individuals revealed too much too soon, they got targeted. They got isolated. They got gaslit. They got broken down by collective forces they never saw coming. Not because they did anything wrong, not because they were arrogant or judgmental or delusional, but because they violated unconscious agreements about what level of consciousness is acceptable in their social environment. Every family has an acceptable level of awareness. Cross it, and you're the problem. Every workplace has an acceptable level of truth-telling. Cross it, and you're not a team player. Every social group has an acceptable level of authenticity. Cross it, and you're too intense. These unspoken limits exist everywhere, and the 5 secrets help you navigate them without sacrificing your development or your sanity. You can still be authentic. You can still connect deeply. You can still use your gifts in service of others, but you do it wisely. You share your certainty only with those who have earned the right to hear it. You reveal your transformation only to those who support your growth. You enforce your boundaries without warning those who would test them. You protect your wound from those who would weaponize it. And you hide your perfection from those who would use it against you. This is not manipulation. This is not inauthenticity. This is psychological sovereignty. And sovereignty requires both power and the wisdom to conceal that power from those who are not ready to respect it. Here's what changes everything. The final insight that brings all 5 secrets into perfect focus. The awakened person's greatest power is not in what they reveal, but in what they see while revealing nothing. Think about what this means. You see everything. You understand the games people play. You recognize shadow projection before it fully forms. You sense manipulation before it's executed. You know who's genuine and who's performing. You understand the emotional undercurrents in every interaction. But you don't react. You don't defend. You don't explain. You don't reveal what you know. You simply observe. You make strategic decisions based on what you see. You enforce boundaries without negotiation. You remove yourself from harmful dynamics without explanation. This silence, combined with perception, creates a psychological force that unconscious people cannot overcome. They're used to getting reactions. They're used to people defending themselves, explaining themselves, trying to convince them of truth. They're used to being able to manipulate through guilt, through confusion, through gaslighting. But the awakened person does none of these things. They simply see, know, decide, and act. No drama, no justification, no emotional display. And this drives unconscious people absolutely insane, because they have no way to manipulate someone who won't engage with manipulation. They have no way to control someone who won't explain their choices. They have no way to gaslight someone who trusts their perception completely. The empaths, who finally integrated their shadow, who finally did the deep work of becoming whole, didn't become less empathetic. They became perfectly empathetic, which means they could feel everything while being strategically precise about what they chose to do with that feeling. They didn't stop caring. They started choosing who deserved their care. They didn't stop understanding. They started refusing to accept understanding as an excuse for tolerating harm. They didn't stop being compassionate. They started protecting their compassion from those who would exploit it. Perfect empathy plus perfect strategy equals psychological invincibility. The awakened person operates from the same principle. They're not less conscious. They're conscious enough to know when to reveal their consciousness and when to protect it. They're not less authentic. They're authentic enough to know that authenticity doesn't mean performing every aspect of themselves for every audience. If you're spiritually awake, you already know the truth of what we're discussing. You've probably already lost relationships because you revealed too much to people who weren't ready. You've probably already lost jobs because you expressed certainty that threatened others. You've probably already lost opportunities because you showed your development before others could tolerate it. And you've probably blamed yourself, wondered if you were too much, questioned whether your awakening made you difficult, problematic, impossible to be around. But you weren't too much. You were just unprotected. You were conscious without being strategic. You were authentic without being discerning. You were awakened without understanding that awakening requires wisdom about what to reveal and what to protect. The good news is, you can start implementing these 5 secrets today. Stop announcing your certainty. Let your actions demonstrate your clarity without explaining your confidence. Trust what you see, but keep that trust private, except with the rare few who've earned access to your inner knowing. Hide your transformation plan. Do your inner work in sacred privacy. Let people wonder why you've changed, instead of giving them a roadmap they can use to sabotage your progress. Keep your boundaries completely private. Know exactly what you will and won't accept, but enforce those limits without warning. Let betrayal meet immediate consequence without negotiation or explanation. Protect your sacred wound. Honor the pain that forged you into who you are, but don't display your scars to people who haven't done their own healing. Share your medicine only with those ready to receive it. Conceal your uncanny perfection. Let people see you as slightly flawed, slightly human, slightly imperfect, so they can relate to you without feeling threatened by the full extent of your development. You're not less authentic when you do this. You're more mature, because true authenticity is not about revealing everything to everyone. True authenticity is about being fully yourself, while skillfully navigating a world that is not yet ready for the level of consciousness you embody. The final piece of wisdom, the insight that ties everything together, is this: consciousness is not a destination, but a responsibility. When you wake up, you become responsible for protecting your own awareness from forces that would try to destroy it. Not through paranoia, not through isolation, but through discernment, through wisdom, through the strategic use of silence. The 5 secrets are your shield. They protect your certainty from those who would diminish it. They protect your transformation from those who would sabotage it. They protect your boundaries from those who would test them. They protect your wound from those who would weaponize it. They protect your perfection from those who would resent it. Keep these secrets close. Trust what you see. Transform in silence. Enforce boundaries without warning. Protect your wounds from exploitation. Hide your perfection from those who cannot handle it. This is not about being paranoid. This is not about being isolated. This is about being wise, because wisdom knows when to speak and when to remain silent. Wisdom knows what to share and what to protect. Wisdom knows that consciousness in an unconscious world must be guarded like the sacred flame it is. The spiritually awake person has mastered both revelation and concealment. They know how to shine their light and when to hide it. They understand how to be fully present while remaining partially hidden. They've learned the delicate art of being authentic while being strategic. And in that mastery, they find something most people never experience: true freedom. Freedom from the need to be understood by everyone. Freedom from the compulsion to explain themselves. Freedom from the burden of making their consciousness comfortable for those who refuse consciousness. If you recognize yourself in this description of the awakened individual, you are part of a rare group. You are among those carrying consciousness forward for humanity. Not by announcing it, not by displaying it, but by embodying it quietly, protecting it fiercely, and sharing it wisely with those who have earned the right to receive it. Your journey is sacred. Your silence is powerful. Your discretion is wisdom. The world needs your consciousness, but it needs you to survive long enough to use it. And survival requires that you protect what you've become from those who would destroy it to preserve their comfortable unconsciousness. This is the path of the awakened. See everything. Know yourself completely. Transform continuously, but reveal strategically, protect fiercely, and trust that your consciousness serves best when it's guarded like the treasure it is.